sinner am I. The joys of life I have forsaken. Here in solitude, forever enclosed, I forswear all earthly pleasures.
It
I
seems.
pay my penance within these walls, never to see light of sun again.
Alright. It seems we have
Sinner
found.
am I. The joys
Yes,
of
we
life
know
I
that.
have forsaken.
We have found an anchoress. Somewhere in the basement below a church.
Here in solitude,
Oh.
forever enclosed, I forswear all earthly pleasures. I
Oh,
pay my
sure,
penance
let's
within
rob
these
her before we
walls,
talk to her.
never to
Why
see
not?
light of sun again.
So we found an anchoress.
A sinner am I. The joys of life I have
Anchoress's
forsaken.
journal. This marks the 7th year of my confinement. Confinement, rather, of my release. Here in these stone walls, I leave all loss and
Here
grief
in
behind.
solitude, forever enclosed,
But you
I
could do
forswear
that a little
all
bit more
earthly
quietly.
pleasures.
For was not my existence one of constant loss? Father and mother lost to the plague, my brother to war, my own self ceding day by day to age and despondency. Far better, far, far better to embrace my death here, waiting to be embraced by my Lord, all vanity forsworn. Yeah, to make you shut up.
What are you doing in this dungeon?
I devote myself to solitary prayer, to confession and fasting.
I have broken the lock. You can leave.
But I choose to live this way. I am an anchoress. This is my entire life.
Sealed up here. All day and night for life. It is an odd way to worship.
I am at complete peace with the world. Can you say as much?
Before I answer, let's, well, talk about what the hell is an anchoress. Anchoresses truly existed, and we do have proof of them in early medieval ages. Also in England. In England, actually, a large number of dwellings. We have also written evidence of these anchoresses. Who are they? In a second. That supports the existence of 780 anchorites on 600 sites between 1100 and 1539. Of course, the end is a bit too young here. Also, 1100 is basically a bit younger than when the game takes place. But already Bede mentioned an anchorite in connection with St. Augustine in 597. So, seems to be a thing, or seems to have been a thing. Anchoresses. There are also male ones, male hermits, but anchoresses as lifestyle for women means that you basically devoted yourself to prayer and isolation. Here it's basically, you see that in the basement. This is historically not accurate, but there were basically cells or small rooms attached to churches, so not below ground, but they could look outside. Some even had small gardens to tend, but anchorites devoted their whole life. It's true what she says, up to death. So they decided for this lifestyle, devoted their whole lives until the very end, until salvation. It is a Christian lifestyle, to prayer and nothing else. So, Stark, I mean, we can try to convince her. Let's see if she
How can you
goes.
be at peace with the world if you live beyond its reach?
I know the pain it can inflict.
Come outside. Your god won't be angry for just a few moments. Come. Come.
I will follow you, if only to feel the grass beneath my feet. I will repent when I return. I came here after the dark
that was
times,
easy.
pestilence and hunger, the death of my father. It has been years. I wonder what it will be like to once again feel a cool breeze, the warm sun, the scent of lavender.
So, let's come outside. But usually she wouldn't live underground, but it was cells, the so-called anchor holds.
The world! It is full. The earth's beauty renews us. Thank you, stranger. My life begins anew.
So much for a lifestyle in isolation. She was really sure
We are
about
of
that.
thy world, my lord, and thereof we are grateful. Leaves fall, turn to dust, and from dust trees of green arise.
Yeah. These cells would be built against the walls of a local village church or would be part of a monastery. Here we're basically in the middle of nowhere, which is a tad problematic, given that she needs food, something to drink, and usually we had these cells somewhere in the middle of the community, so isolated, but there were servants that tended to the basic needs of anchorites, providing food, water, removing waste. So where's she going with that? I don't want to know. And it was quite easy to lure her out. History suggests otherwise. As far as written records tell, some anchorites refused to leave their cells even when the towns were pillaged, and so they consequently burned to death when churches were torched. Here, well, we had a different approach. She's now outside, she's happy with that. That's not really what history tells us. This was a lifestyle people were really, really devoted to, and they basically ate and spent all of their days in contemplative prayer, nothing else. And there were even guidelines for that, so-called Ancrene Wisse or Ancrene Rule, the rule of the anchoress, which is a work of the 13th century, so it's much younger than the time frame here. But interestingly enough, it was written for anchoresses, so for female nuns, stressing that here. It was a book for women and this lifestyle. Anchorites could be male or female. We basically have proof of both. That in the 7th century, Guthlac of Crowland, who was related to the royal family of Mercia, withdrew from a monastery at Repton to an island in the Lincolnshire Fens where he lived for 15, 20 years, something like that. So we have also men living this lifestyle, but Middle English works then suggest there was more famous among the nunneries, because we do have rules directly for anchoresses, so basically like her. And yeah, this book is younger, 13th century. Still, we have evidence going back as far as Bede. So also in Anglo-Saxon times, in the times of the Danelaw, there probably were anchorites around, suggested by written evidence, by these cells that were also found in monasteries. Note of support. Bless you, dearie. You're an inspiration to us all, except these few carrots. They've turned black and all. Oh. Nice to give her that. But the good Lord made them, and they give sustenance. Yeah, how nice of you. Still, we do have fruit and cabbage provided for that. However, she would have to go outside. Usually the servants would put that through the door into the, let's say, living space of the anchoresses. But interesting that we find her here now. She's outside and she continues to pray. So at least she's consistent with that. Still, back on track here. Anchoresses, they existed. They wouldn't live so much in isolation. They would live isolated but in the middle of their community, so that we basically had these servants tending to them. Still, historically, it works. Now, we did have this lifestyle in a Christianized Anglo-Saxon England. Eivor here, as a Dane, wouldn't understand that, so it was definitely not part of the Germanic traditions. It was something purely Christian, was introduced to Anglo-Saxon England during Christianity and with Christianity. So you wouldn't find that before any Christian influence, which is why our first mentioning is linked to St. Augustine and the arrival of Christianity. But we do have basically records of the 10th century of churches talking about that, so it had a foot in the door, so to say, in Christian Anglo-Saxon England.